Hi guys and gals, Greg Howe, S9 Radio, and today we're going to have a look and a review of two of my favorite radios, the Regency Imperial, a product of the late 60s, and the Regency Imperial II, a product of the early 70s. Both of these radios were extremely high dollar for their time, with the Imperial coming in between $250 and $300 depending who you purchase it from, and the Imperial IIs had a suggested list of about $360. So these were not cheap radios, and consequently neither is the performance. Hands down, my favorite receivers. They run a 262 kilohertz IF as opposed to the 455 kilohertz found in most CB and other types of radio receivers, and consequently that gives them a very selective receiver. Those of you that have run sideband know how you need to clarify on just about every signal. Well, the same thing holds true with the Regency Imperials when in the AM mode, which brings up another point. These are also double sideband transmit radios, meaning the transmitter has a suppressed carrier and transmits both upper and lower sideband at the same time. However, the receive is both upper and lower sideband. I operate these radios on sideband channel 38 and other frequencies all the time using an external VFO. People do not even know I'm running double sideband if I don't tell them. And once again, the receive on these radios is just phenomenal. Now let's look at the differences between the Regency Imperial I and the Regency Imperial II. The outward appearance, the most obvious, is the gold and black or bronze trim versus the green and black. But there are some other differences. They've added a vernier drive to the clarifier control, which gives you more resolution, helpful for fine-tuning sideband signals. And they've also added an RF gain control, which is very useful for overbearing signals. And what they've done to make room for this RF gain control is they've moved the final plate tuning, which is on the front panel of this radio. And I really do like having the final tuning on the front of the radio. These are tube radios. By nature, they're narrow banded because they are a tube tuned circuit. And having this final plate loading on the front panel allows me to go from 26915, where I like to hang out below channel 1 on AM, all the way above channel 40. And I don't have to reach around the side of the radio like they've done on the Imperial IIs to touch up that plate tuning. So I find this plate tuning on the front panel highly desirable, but I also find this RF gain on the front panel highly desirable. So I guess it's the age-old story. You don't get to have your cake and eat it. And another addition to the Regency Imperial II is the addition of a noise blanker. Now, both radios have the AM and then the AM ANL position, which is an automatic noise limiter, and it does work very effectively, but you'll see there is no noise blanker switch on the Imperial ones. And this noise blanker really does work. Provides an extra layer of noise blanking. And electronically, those are the biggest differences from an outward appearance. Now, internally, they are identical radios with the exception of a plate choke has been added to the Imperial II. This plate choke basically prevents any RF from coming off the final and working its way back into the audio modulator circuit. I have not found a circumstance where, things got a little wonky on me and I was getting some weird audio in the Imperial I. I have to think under the right conditions with some plate tuning that maybe wasn't done properly. The final might try to backfeed some RF into the audio circuit. Obviously, the engineers at Regency felt it was a necessary addition, so they did that. But I have literally milled over every iota of the schematic, and electronically, that is the only difference. Addition of a noise blanker, RF gain control, The vernier drive really isn't an electronic modification. It's a mechanical reduction, providing better resolution on the clarifier, the fine-tuned control. So once again, electronically, addition of an RF gain, a noise blanker, and a plate choke. Other than that, they are identical radios. They both sound great. They both receive great. Now let's take a look under the hood. So having a look at the inside and the rear of the Regency Imperial and the Regency Imperial II, as mentioned, the only differences are the addition of a noise blanking circuit on the Imperial II and then this plate choke that does not appear on the Imperial I, nor does it appear on the Imperial I 1968 schematic, whereas L26, the plate choke, and its two accompanying capacitors do appear on the later 1971 Imperial II version. These radios were also 12 volt DC compatible. I've got the multi-vibrators out as it kind of gets in the way of my VFO cables. But just a beautifully compact construction, a real good layout. You got a nice front firing speaker, adding to the just the excellence of this design. The build quality, solid copper case covering. We've got this nice bottom plate that adds to the structural rigidity of the chassis. There's 12 screws. Yeah, it's built like Fort Knox, the way good old school designs were. Okay, you've heard me rant and rave about what a great radio these Regency Imperials are. Now for the downside. Now for the bad news. Like any vintage piece of electronics, component aging is always an issue. Of course, this Regency, having only 2 electrolytic capacitors requiring replacement, greatly simplifies the restoration process as opposed to many other radios have 2 and 3 times as many electrolytics requiring replacement. However, the crystal aging, meaning them drifting out of spec, is greatly accelerated on both the Regency range gain and the Imperials, as they both share this channel selector switch, and having an oscillator tube inside this tube cage in close proximity to the crystals really speeds up the deterioration or the frequency drift of these crystals. So long story short is plan on having some bad crystals. And last but not least, it would be irresponsible for me not to mention the Regency Imperial uses K-Tran transformers. These were excellent transformers of the era. They were used in hi-fis, ham radios, all kinds of CB sets, but they were a little too good as they used real silver on the mica insulators contained within. And this silver tends to grow whiskers as it tarnishes, eventually shorting out these mica insulators. Now, these K-Tran transformers on the Regencies, I've only seen one of them go bad. There are other pieces of electronics where I've seen all of the transformers go bad. And I can't really say it's a heat-related issue. It's probably more the environment the radios came from. I'm thinking humidity may be an accelerant of this silver mica disease, as it's known, SMD, silver mica disease. And that is a well-known issue within the K-Tran IF transformers. Once again, these are great transformers, but they suffer from this silver mica disease. These radios are not powerhouses. Regency used a rather interesting scheme to try to get around the FCC's 4-watt maximum. So they chose to go about it with just pure audio and lots of it. These radios are transmit audio monsters, plain and simple. Stock out of the box, they usually come in about 1 3/4 watts. They will easily modulate up to 5 or 6 watts. But for those that like to run amplifiers with a low dead key, yes, these radios are a wonderful pairing to those amplifiers, as they have a very low dead key naturally, and then they've got a ton of audio to ride up over the RF carrier. Yeah, the Regency Imperials are audio monsters. So let's have a closer look at the multifunction meter on the Regency, which is extremely useful. Right now it's in the S position. That is signal strength for both transmit and receive. I'm going to kill the lights, and you can see during transmit the meter actually throws out a nice red glow. Bring the lights back on. So that is in the S meter position. Now we'll go to V. V is the high voltage, and I'm seeing looks to be about 250 volts. That's a very important number. If you see that voltage really back swinging, not a good sign. That means you have weak capacitors. So you really don't want any voltage sag. Those of you with amplifiers and whatnot and are familiar with high voltage supplies, I don't need to tell you what voltage sag is. And both of these sets have been recapped. So they've got solid capacitors, solid power supplies, and you can see no voltage sag. And then last but not least, we go over to the plate current, the C. And this is very handy for those that like to run around in frequencies like I do. You know, I'm down below channel 1 minute. I'm up on channel 38 the next minute. So we've got this final tuning control over here. And basically, we're dipping the plate. So I'll go ahead and key up on AM. And I'm going to dip that plate. Oh, boy, that was off. See how that plate is dipping? We're resonating the plate. I must have had it tuned for channel 38. So now the plate has been resonated. Once again, an extremely useful multifunction meter. Now, normally when doing a comparison test, I like to have equally matched tubes in both sets. I do not have that. I can tell you that both sets have good tubes. So there's the AB switch. A little hotter on the Imperial I, but they both sound wonderful. And of course, I've got the noise blanker and things. Let's turn on the A&L for both of them. Try to give you guys a fair representation. So here we are in the Super Bowl, hoping to give you a demonstration of just how tight the receive, fine tune, or clarifier is. And of course, on the Super Bowl, you know, it's kind of a starter kit to have a 10 kilowatt amplifier, and 20, 30, 50,000 isn't uncommon. So this is a great chance to show you the selectivity. Look at that. I'm still on the same channel, and I've almost completely tuned that guy out. Can you do that with a clarifier on your CB radio? And once again, I'm on the same channel. This is not a slider, and that's how tight these radios are. I mean, you can literally tune somebody out and cherry pick the station that you want. QRZ 388 388 Hollywood, California. Wondering where both of you are. I'm on an old vintage tube radio, so I'll give you a little audio. Maybe you can tune in on my signal. 388 388 Hollywood, California. Good morning. I missed your location. Your location and your name. The name here is Greg. Greg. Golf Romeo Echo Golf Golf. I'm in Hollywood, California. QSL?